Okay, fine. Whatever. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, yeah. All right, well, what's ever up? What's every up, everyone? Up? What's up? I'm talking to a camera. It's hard, all right? What's up, everyone? I am Jason Caesar with New Braunfels Tech, and today we're going to be talking to you about whether or not you should respond to a kidnapper if he tells you not to report the kidnapping to the authorities, or in the IT world is why you should call your IT professional rather than the phone number that pops up when it says your computer has a virus. So let's get into it. So the reason I'm bringing this topic up is because this is a very common call that I get from a lot of my customers when they're asking for tech support. Namely, they call and they say, hey, it looks like my files are held for ransom, or hey, I clicked on this recipe I was trying to find and it got me into this weird web page and I'm just not sure what to do. So when I was doing research for this topic, there was 5 points that really seemed to stand out against the rest that we should be looking for when we're trying to decide whether or not a website is bad or an email is malicious. Number 1 is a sense of urgency. 2 is bad grammar, and when I bring up bad grammar, it's not necessarily just because the person who wrote the website or email it's their second language. There's actually a little more to it than just that, so I'll go over that in a little bit. But number 3 is the website is unfinished or there's a bunch of broken links. Another one is threatening language. You should never respond to threatening language. And then last but not least is SSL security or HTTPS. Don't worry, I'm not going to speak tech language to you when discussing this. I will break it down into digestible pieces. Usually people get a little irked about the SSL thing, and don't worry, it's not complicated. So to get back to the first point, bad grammar and misspelling. So when we're looking at a website or an email and you're not sure who it's from, or if it's something you even really want to be on, if you're seeing broken English and bad grammar, of course that's a really good sign that maybe at the very least the person who made the website didn't put much effort into it, or the email. But it's also a sign that perhaps the hacker is intentionally using the misspelling for one, getting past email filters. So if there's a word in there like Microsoft support, let's say, and you have that blocked, well, if it's Macrosoft support or support with 1P or what have you, it's going to get past that filter because it's technically a different spelling of the words. And so you might get the email in and go, oh, well, I had a blocker for the fake Microsoft support. Maybe this is the real one, and you don't check the spelling of it. Well, that's one of the reasons why there's grammatical errors and misspellings. Another reason, though, is it's actually part of a weeding out process to find suckers. And it's a little bit brutal, but this whole game's a little bit brutal. But what I mean by that is that if you're not seeing those grammatical errors or misspellings, then you are probably more likely to be duped because you're clearly not a very detail-oriented person, and so they're going to be able to you're going to be more susceptible to getting the hack in the first place. And to expand on that a little bit more, what I mean by that is let's just say you click on a link and it pops up with, your whole screen goes blank and there's red letters everywhere and you're freaking out and panicking and literally your computer is telling you, call this phone number, blah, blah, blah. Okay, when we're talking about calling the phone number, don't call that phone number. That is getting the kidnapper to actually kidnap your computer. That's literally what we're doing. Is most likely what will happen is you call them up, they have some guy from Microsoft support, and you grant him access to log into your computer and remote access it, And then he puts the virus in there and then goes, oh, wow, it was already in here. I don't know what to do, but I guess we'll need to pay these guys that ransom. And he's actually the guy that you're going to be paying. You just don't know it. And the reason, kind of as a side note, why you're able to get away with saying Microsoft support is that technically these people are supporting a Microsoft product. That doesn't mean they're working for Microsoft. It means that they're supporting Microsoft products. So, again, if somebody says I am from Microsoft support, most likely not the case. So let's nip that one at the bud. The third point that I mentioned earlier, poorly written websites. No, that's the second point. The third point that I want to go over is incomplete websites or broken links. So if you're on a whole web page and you click on a link and it takes you to the same place that this other link on the website took you, or the main web page is perfect, well written, all that, and then any other place you go to in the website, it looks a little messy or janky or just incomplete. Well, then that's another sign that, at the very least, the person that made the website, again, in the first place, wasn't really putting in the effort. Point number 4, pop-up ads. I'm not talking about ads in general. A lot of websites, they rely completely on ad revenue in order to keep them up and running. And a lot of those are very good, reputable websites. But there are other ones that utilize pop-up ads. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you remember what I'm talking about. These are the ads that invade your entire screen and make it so it's impossible for you to click past it without you having interacted with it in some way, shape, or form. Okay, that's not good. That's actually legal nowadays in the United States. You cannot make intrusive ads. And what that means is you can't make an ad that is even just difficult to get rid of. And it doesn't inhibit you actually browsing or doing what you're intending on doing on that website. So if there are pop-up ads or intrusive ads on a website, then you definitely need to just click out of it and look for whatever you're looking for elsewhere. And if an email takes you to a website that is like that, once again, find another way. Block that email sender. We're done with this whole thing. Point number 5 is threatening language. So this is going to be kind of a quick one, but if somebody is threatening you online with anything, more than likely you probably don't even need to bother with it. That's just a general rule of thumb, is, especially if it's like, oh, your photos and videos are currently being hacked, or we're stealing them or encrypting them is the word they like to use. Well, if it's using threatening language and telling you to call a phone number, and this is my main point, don't call that number, especially if it's threatening language, because there's no reason to threaten you into calling a number. If you actually feel like your life is threatened, God forbid, by the language that it's using, you could call the authorities. But honestly, I would call the tech support guy first, just to be able to verify that it's not really anything serious. And if he's going, that sounds kind of serious, then you want to call the authorities. But that's my 2 cents on that. Threatening language is always just something to ignore, especially in the internet world. It's it's an epidemic. My final 6th point is security. Like I said before, this isn't as complicated as it sounds. Basically, if you see in your web browser, if it shows up with like a little red lock or some warning message telling you this site is not secure, what it means is that the website doesn't have HTTPS or SSL security. And what that means is, the most plain English way I could say it is, when we had our landline phones and you would call somebody or someone would call you and you're talking away and maybe gossiping or telling your dirtiest secrets, and then you hear kind of a gentle click and you just know that your brother or sister is on the line listening in on the conversation. Well, that is the same thing as a website without SSL or HTTPS security, which is why that warning message pops up. Because if this website you're going to asks you to put in your credit card information and someone else is listening in on that connection, they're able to very easily take that information, because it's just right there in plain English, and then use it for ill intent. However, with security or HTTPS, it turns your landline phone into a cell phone connection where no one can just kind of tap into it and listen to it, because it's encrypted is what it's called, or it creates, it turns it into a code that only the other party that you're communicating directly to is able to decipher, or it's kind of like a password, how a password works. So that's why the problem with that, though, is that some reputable websites don't have this security protocol in place. The ESPN website, an example, is currently not SSL protected, or doesn't have a secure encrypted connection, but they don't need it because of the other security measures they use in the background. That's one example of why you should use this list as a guide, but if you see any one of these points in the website, don't go immediately, oh, it's bad then, it's malicious, and I need to call the police and report them. You know, it might just be a poorly written website. It might just be that they don't have SSL encryption enabled. It might very well just be a really old website that still has pop-up ads, but that's a big red flag, actually. Anyways, that just about wraps it up. If you have any questions or comments, just let me know. Leave a comment down below, or give me an email, send me a text, pigeon, smoke signal, I don't care. I'm here to help you out, especially if your technology's down. You can't really do any of the modern forms of... Anyways, y'all have a wonderful day.